Hey everybody, Peebs here. In 2009 I started my YouTube channel, and I've played a lot of games since then, but I haven't actually talked about a lot of those games on this channel for whatever reason. So I figured doing a list of my personal top 10 best games of the decade would be fun and be the perfect excuse. In the spirit of covering some new games on the channel, I figured I should cut out some of the games that I would obviously have on my top 10 decade list, but maybe I already talked about them a little bit too much, like either Mario Galaxy 2 or Mario Odyssey, either Skyward Sword or Breath of the Wild, definitely Animal Crossing New Leaf, and even Skyrim and Mass Effect 2.
You big, stupid jellyfish.
And again, this is a personal list, so there's obviously going to be some games throughout 10 years that I either forgot about or didn't play. So let me know in the comments if I missed one of your favorites. And if I did include one of your favorite games, you are socially obligated to give this video a like. Sorry, I don't make the rules. The rules are written by our Heavenly Father, Google. All right, let's do it. Here we go. There was a lot of forgettable Resident Evil content through the 2010s, but in the second half of the decade, we got the really solid Resident Evil 2 remake, and I even considered giving this spot to the HD re-release of RE1, but that was a remaster of a 2002 remake of a game released in 1996, so maybe not. Resident Evil flirted with becoming an action game series for a bit, but RE7 saw a return to the original survival horror roots of the franchise, but this time from a first-person perspective. After getting a message from his wife, who'd been missing and presumed dead for 3 years, our main character, What's-His-Face, heads to a remote house in the swamplands of the southern United States to find her. What's-His-Face doesn't just find her, though, but also an evil hillbilly family corrupted with some kind of strange infection that makes him seemingly impossible to kill. Speaking of What's-His-Face, I do know what his name is, but I'm refusing to say it in protest because he's incredibly forgettable. The only interesting thing about him that I can think of is that he's not interesting. He doesn't have any character traits at all as far as I can tell. In fact, he's so uninteresting that he even gets his hand cut off at the beginning of the game, and he doesn't even seem all that concerned about it. Don't worry guys, I'm fine. Just put a little bit of alcohol on it or something.
Okay, fine.
It's good as new. Let's just say he's no Leon Kennedy. I mean, pretty much all he ever does is say stupid one-off lines.
Well, that's special.
Although now that I think about it, that's also pretty much all Leon Kennedy does.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
What's-His-Face, most memorable character of the decade. I've had a soft spot for tactics games ever since I played Tactics Ogre as a kid. For a long time, I thought about how cool it would be to have a tactics game with guns, grenades, rocket launchers, and a percentage-based cover system. It just so happens UFO Enemy Unknown, aka the original XCOM, already existed. But since I didn't have internet at the time and was 4, I didn't know about it. In 2012, the remake of UFO Enemy Unknown, XCOM Enemy Unknown, came out. I enjoyed that game quite a bit, but in 2016, XCOM 2 released, and it takes the number 9 spot on my list. At the start of XCOM 2, you learned that in XCOM 1, you failed. You may have thought that you beat the game, but just trust me, you didn't. The aliens have taken over Earth and have become an occupying force, spreading submission and tepid complacency throughout humanity with brute force and a steady flow of propaganda. Luckily though, as your growing rebel army starts to gain some victories, you can counter that propaganda with your own propaganda. How could anyone not join the resistance after seeing this?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That'll show those alien scum.
One of the best things about XCOM is that you can customize the soldiers to be whoever you want. For example, your friends. Like Chedtronic here. Just like the real thing. A perfect resemblance. He's also really awesome, I can't lie. He cuts up the aliens with his sword. He has like hundreds of kills. Honestly, I'm impressed. Or you could just make them Pokemon characters. Go Pikachu! Use your machine gun attack!
Good job, Pikachu.
Oh no, she's dead. Of course, if you do end up making your friends or your favorite fictional characters, that also means you'll have to see a lot of your friends and fictional characters die. Which can either be really sad or really hilarious, depending on how you look at it. Not supposed. Oh god, not supposed to. No.
Excellent work.
Thank you. Cheers. Ugh.
Savage. Wow. Thanks. No.
Sick.
What a save. What a save.
Okay, my fault.
Wow. My
Rocket League!
What a
Released
save.
in 2015.
Okay. You suck.
Despite having played the game for, 1,537 hours? That can't be right. I don't really have all that much to say about it. You're in a rocket car, you knock a ball around and score goals. That's pretty much it. It's car soccer.
Yeah, I didn't play Rocket League. It's fun. I promise. What a save.
Up next, I have The Legend of Grimrock 2, released in 2014. The story in Grimrock 2 is pretty vague. You play as a party of 4 prisoners being transferred somewhere across the ocean and through some sort of magic. The boat is led to crash on the island of Nex. Your group escapes their cage and they're forced to work together in order to survive the watchful eye of a creepy, robed, morally questionable magic man. The character creation is much improved from the first game, and since the story is a little lacking, it makes for a good opportunity to create your own character backstories by using the old school game mechanic known as imagination. And here is my party. First, there's Carlos Stanton, a disgraced knight that's been falsely accused of murder, at least falsely if you ask him. Then there's Zolik Tan, a crab guy. He never says anything, mostly he just swings his big weapon around, but he misses a lot, so make sure you don't stand too close to the enemy, I guess.
Miss.
Then there's Grum, who's very, very short-tempered, and to keep him pacified, we let him hold all the food. Hopefully that'll, make him not want to kill me. And then there's a rat. Just a rat. Nobody really knows what his deal is. Okay, maybe we'll get rid of the rat. This guy will do. He's fine. I really enjoyed The Legend of Grimrock 1, but it all took place in one giant dungeon. Grimrock 2, on the other hand, is huge and has multiple distinct areas. It definitely adds some welcome variety to the massive island. In fact, to record footage for this video, I jumped into a save file I hadn't touched for a couple years, and it took me over half an hour to get my bearings back. Luckily, you can take notes on your map, which makes the whole ordeal at least slightly less intimidating. I enjoy the grid-based combat too, and there's a nice selection of enemies and even bosses to fight, but where the game really shines is the puzzles. There are countless puzzles in this game. Some are as simple as finding a secret button on the wall, but as you progress, you'll come across some much more complex ones, and you're sure to get stumped quite a few times. If you decide to give this game a try, I highly recommend not looking up any of the puzzle hints online, which can be pretty tempting, because solving them on your own is the most fun part of the game, and it makes you feel real smart. And then 2 seconds later, you run off and do something stupid like this. Cuphead Don't Deal with the Devil, released in 2017. I haven't seen too many people include this in their top 10 games of the decade, but I absolutely love Cuphead, and it's more than deserving in my opinion. The combination of the late 80s, early 90s shoot 'em up, which doesn't get a lot of love these days, and the 1930s animation style, which I'm not sure has ever been done in a video game before, was so unique and strange and super up my alley. Cuphead and Mugman get into a little bit of trouble at the Devil's Casino and are forced to become pawns of the devil and collect his debts, aka murder almost everyone in Cupheadville, or whatever this place is called, I forget.
Inkwell Isle. It's called Inkwell Isle. I just looked it up on Google. Don't know if you've heard about that website.
Praise be to thee! I know you don't want to be pawns of the devil. Every day I wake up and say, don't become a pawn of the devil. Don't become a pawn of the devil. And what do I go and do? God dang it! I'm a pawn of the devil now. This game looks so good. In fact, one of my only real complaints about it is that it's hard to appreciate how good it looks while you're playing because of how ridiculously difficult it is. If you don't like dying, you won't like this game. I could have phrased that better, actually. It is hard and you will die many, many times. That's basically what I'm trying to say. There may be a lot of frustration from dying 100 times in a row. Just as long as we don't die at the same time. That's all that matters. What? Oh! The bone! I couldn't even see it! No! I couldn't even see the bone! But there's very few games I played in the last decade that can match the pure joy of beating a really hard Cuphead boss. Oh, yes! 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 Yes!
Yes!
Oh, thank you!
Finally! Finally!
All right, Cuphead, I put you on the decade list. What do you say? Subnautica, initially releasing in 2014, but officially releasing in 2018. After the full launch, I actually worked quite a bit on a Subnautica video, but similarly to all these videos, I never finished them because... But at the very least, I can talk about it now. You may know Subnautica as that alien ocean game that everyone on the internet screamed over. And well, that's kind of fair, as it is fairly terrifying. But that's really only a small portion of what Subnautica has to offer. You can collect resources, build a base, build a second base, and have your base collapse in on itself because you didn't build it correctly.
What the?
Ah, shit! I actually played for a few hours before I encountered anything too scary. Although, to be fair, even the small stuff scared me early on. What the heck is that? Get away, get away! Get away, get away, get away! And I guess a big part of the reason why I didn't find anything all that scary at first was because I specifically avoided the areas where I knew they might be. Because I'm a big freaking coward and I had to pause the game constantly because I was too afraid of big scary pixel fishes. Seriously, there were many times playing this game that I broke out into literal fear sweats and thought I might pass out. My fear of sharks has now been eclipsed by my fear of leviathans. Out of all the games I played this decade, this is by far the one I had the most fun exploring. Partially because I'm addicted to the fear, but largely because all the beautiful and unique zones in the game. There's so many different things to find, a variety of different plants, useful crafting materials, and a bunch of new creatures that may or may not want to eat you. If, like me, you find it difficult to progress through scary areas, you could always try putting on some happy music. This is okay, I feel pretty good. And everything is fine, and I'm not gonna die because I'm singing this happy song. Oh God! Oh God, help me! Well, I can't handle this anymore. If you don't mind, I'm gonna hitchhike on the only ship anywhere near this planet and get the heck out of here. Huh. Well, guess I'll go die. At number 4, released in 2014, I have PT, aka Playable Teaser, essentially a demo for the now canceled Silent Hills. Not only did Silent Hills never come out, you can now legally no longer download PT. I could go on a long Konami rant about this for sure, but that's not what this video is about, so let's just summarize it with 2 words. Well, dang, that sucks. Ah, man, ah! PT is essentially a puzzle horror game. You walk through a hallway attempting to figure out what obscure thing you're supposed to do or look at so you can walk through the same hallway over and over and over again. It sounds easy enough, but not only are the puzzles incredibly cryptic at times, simply pushing the joystick forward is hard enough on its own because of how insanely freaky and unsettling this game is. Hey, could you not? Thanks. A lot of people would say,
Can you really put a game for the decade on from the game of a demo of a game that never even released?
yeah, easily.
You idiot! Unsubscribed.
Sure, you can beat it in about 20 minutes if you know what you're doing, but it's one of the most memorable 20 minutes of gameplay I've personally ever experienced. Not to mention that it is to boot one of the scariest games I've ever played. Plus, I needed a short game after playing the next game on the list. You'll see what I mean in a second. Persona 5, released in 2016. Persona 5 is a game where you hunt for evil adults who do messed up things by taking advantage of people and invade their hearts, represented by other dimensions called palaces, which visually represent the essence of their character and their true corrupted selves by stealing their treasure, aka their innermost desire, which forces them to confess their sins and ultimately changes their hearts in the real world. And how do you do all of that exactly?
We use a smartphone app.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. I don't normally play Japanese RPGs, at least not ones that don't have Mario in them, but I really enjoy Persona 5. Although I have to admit, I haven't actually beaten it yet, despite having played for 211 hours. For real? Yes, Ryuji, for real. This game is insanely long. In fact, it's so long that it's kind of intimidating to talk about it on a single segment of a top 10 video. Even the main story aside, there's so many things you can do. For example, you can date up to 9 girls in the game. No gay allowed though, unfortunately. At least, not officially. Just take your clothes off.
Yes, indeed.
Check out this, hell yeah!
And since I'm sure everyone is dying to know who my favorite girl is, it's a close one, but I've got to give it to Makoto. She's just so freaking cool! Joker would let her run him over with that bike any day. Okay, that was weird. I don't even know what that means, actually. He would let her kill him, I guess. Or you can also do stuff like play baseball, go to the bathhouse, study in the cafe. You can shop, compete in a burger eating contest, create new personas in a system I still don't completely understand after 200+ hours. You can go to the fortune teller, hang out with each of your many friends and confidants, or you can just ignore all your friends' messages and play video games in your room all day. You know, like in real life. And doing all this stuff will slowly increase your personality stats. I like the idea that doing all these activities isn't just a way to pass the time, but it's also a way to slowly make yourself a better person overall. So when you look at it that way, when I went an entire month plus without uploading a video, it wasn't because I was being lazy. I was increasing my kindness points by petting my dog all day. It was necessary for my personal growth, okay? Gross. But I wasn't just petting my dogs, I was also increasing my guts by playing the next game on the list.
Oh, you again. I hope you've brought plenty of souls.
Dark Souls! Originally released in 2011 and another game on my decade list that I haven't beaten yet. But it's not from lack of effort, I swear! I'm trying my best! I'm sorry, Mom. I'll be an epic gamer one day, I swear. Just don't hate me again, please.
Die, 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 die 1,000 times again.
Oh, trust me, I will. Get good games aren't for everyone, but I do think it's fair to say that Dark Souls is one of, if not the best get good game ever made. It's just about the closest thing to a modernized, unforgiving NES game. But don't worry, you're not in it alone. You can get help from other players as phantoms or even in the form of little tips on the ground. Tips that are definitely always telling you the truth. Jump? Okay. Whee! Then there's other things like amazing chest ahead. I'm not really sure what it's talking about. Looks like it's gonna be a boss at it. Oh, I get it. It's boobies. It's insanely difficult, unforgiving, and even has some weird gameplay mechanics that are difficult to understand initially, but for those dedicated enough to commit the time, it's super rewarding and fun. It even has some fairly deep lore for those willing to look hard enough for it. But if you decide to give it a try, just as the trailers for the game suggest, prepare to die. I'm dead. As a big fan of the series, people ask me all the time, Peebs, what's your favorite Harvest Moon game? To which I now reply with, Stardew Valley. Number 1, Stardew Valley, released in 2016. Stardew Valley is a heavily Harvest Moon-inspired farming simulator that has quickly become one of my favorite games of all time. I'm convinced that it's exactly what Harvest Moon would have eventually been like if it had kept progressing over time instead of, never mind. This story's too long and depressing to talk about right now. Just forget it. One of the main objectives in Harvest Moon is to get filthy stinking rich and pay for an army of harvest sprites to do all your work for you. Okay, well, you don't actually pay them, but you do give them gifts. That's basically the same thing. Well, there's no harvest sprites that'll do your chores for you, but Stardew Valley isn't too dissimilar, and all the farm work is massively improved. There's constantly something for you to be working towards that'll help your farm both earn more and become more efficient. There's basic stuff like buying upgrades for tools or buildings, or even crafting new items and equipment yourself. You're constantly spending money in order to make some more money. But you don't just make money in Stardew Valley, you also make friends. Well, video game friends. It's almost as good as real friends. There's an entire village of people you can befriend, date, and even marry. And unlike Persona 5, you actually can gay. I haven't done it yet, but I have seriously considered going gay for Shane, if for no other reason than to see his cutscenes.
I'll save you, Shane. I'll drink all of the alcohol so that you don't have to.
Stardew Valley was made by one person, Eric Concerned Ape Barone. I remember seeing footage of it all the way back in 2012. As a Harvest Moon fan, I was definitely intrigued, but if you had told me then it would end up being one of my favorite games ever, I'm not sure I would have believed you. But all that hard work paid off. And it's really cool to see so many new people enjoying the style of game that I loved so much growing up. I mean, when you think about it, it's a little bit weird. In real life, I'm not a big fan of chores or manual labor, but in video games, it's great. And on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan of shooty war games, but in real life, I love war! Stardew Valley Valley, best game of the decade. Except for maybe all these other games I disqualified for an arbitrary reason. And also maybe some other games that I didn't play or think about. But I don't care what you guys think, it's my video! Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Bye-bye! Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Sorry, it's been a while. I have another video coming very soon, I promise. Let me know what games I missed in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. You can check out like top 10 GameCube games or something like that here. I'll see you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.